Just in time showed up for.
At least I made it. Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Su. I'm the Chief Executive at NopSec. We're a cloud-based security company right here in New York City. So before I start, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Are you guys familiar with the vulnerability scanner, or have you ever used the vulnerability scanning tool by show of hands? Anyone? Great. So my guess, open source, commercial, Nessus, various scanning tool. So I'm sure you have seen something like this as well. We're very familiar with Excel spreadsheets. So what we do is we help enterprise customers making sense out of the security vulnerability data. We help them aggregate the data, normalize the data, and trying to figure out what really matters the most. So some of the macro problem you probably have heard before, right? There's a new vulnerability has been introduced on a daily basis. 2012 alone, there are more than 5,000 new vulnerabilities. And then from an attack surface perspective, hackers are really looking for the low-hanging fruit. So it's really easy to get access to the wireless network and then jump into the internal network. So why bother create zero-day exploits? So from a CIO perspective, every time when we had a meeting, they always complain, how come I do not have this one single visibility? I have tons of a point solution. Where can you connect everything together into one place? And then look at enterprise perspective. If you work as a security engineer, you have to run the scanner, communicate with your development team, infrastructure team, so a lot of a manual process. The challenge is not about too little data. I think the challenge is way too much data, and then you don't know what to do with it. So if I can summarize in 3 words, this is what we do. So we first aggregate the results from various scanning technology. If customer does not have the scanner, it can be augmented by our own scanning tools. And then number 2 is we really help customers to correlate, really make sense. So what is the correlation? We build artificial intelligence expert system in the back end. What does it do is, it correlates what has been exploited in the wild, so that this vulnerability clearly has been sold in the black market, has been exploited elsewhere. And then the second part we look at is, what is your current environment? You may have the same vulnerability resides on different places. Domain controller clearly is more important than the desktop. And then clearly that needs to be prioritized, and you need to fix that first. And then the third part, we're really looking at across different attack surface. How can we make a correlation, get more intelligence if I can find a vulnerability from a server level, application level, or database level? And then the third part is really the challenging part. Now you find out the vulnerability, what are you going to do? You have to fix it. Conference call, face-to-face meetings with your enterprise colleagues, or leverage from the social collaboration tools, where you can create the small circles, share the same expertise, whether it's internally or externally. So I think I'm wrapping up. And, there a lot of customers has been benefiting from the solution and really take advantage of the cloud, the SaaS model, low maintenance, high flexibility. And with that, I'm going to hand over to Mike Langelo to help you navigate through the product.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. All right, so just expand it here. So this is basically what we call the dashboard at Unified VRM. So we took basically 2 approaches on vulnerability risk management. One is the manager view that has to take into consideration the macro trends in terms of vulnerability resolution, new vulnerability discovery, and so on. The other approach is the analyst, the security analyst that is in charge of scanning the network or finding new vulnerabilities, both in network, wireless and wired, and application. So We also took like a very simplistic approach. We like the idea of giving marks, and obviously the marks are related to like a risk score calculation. The risk score is calculated both taking into consideration the technical risk, which is like aggregation of CVSS score, and the business risk, which is how much weight you give to a certain asset in the organization. Lisa was also mentioning that this is an aggregated approach. We love the fact that we're going to add we continue adding like several attack surfaces, so you can take the approach of an external attacker, an internal attacker, an attacker targeting web application, and a security administrator, targeting security configuration, the wireless approach, as well as the exploitation. And I'm going to go through like briefly in each one of them. So when you click on internal, this is what we call workspace, and I'm going to show it to you a little later. So the analyst basically go into detection mode, and here it can do three basic things. If the organization has existing investment in existing scanners, we allow them to import the scanner, because to us it doesn't really matter. The data is the raw data is the commodity, and then we do like a big data analytics as well as a prioritization on existing data and data that I'm going to show you like we're going to generate. So you can import Nessus, Qualys, and Rapid7 and Expose, or you can create your own scan, and obviously you can select the asset, you can select the asset group. Asset group are created based on like a categorization that can be like geographic or any other group. You can select the time. You can select the scanner. Again, the scanner can be a single scanner, and also we support load balance scanners and distributed scanning. So you can basically distribute the scanner, the loads of the scanner, like in a multiplicity of scanning internally to the organization. And again, I selected the internal, but you can do it like for external as well. The only difference is that internal is a virtual machine that is placed in the internal network. External is done in the cloud. You can you can choose the scanner. You can choose the scan templates whatever you want, discovery or like so pre-can, and you can perform authenticated scan authenticated scan both with SMB and SSH. So far, nothing, out of like the ordinary, let's say. So what happened when we launched the scan is that it goes out there, gathers the result. When he completes, it comes back, and obviously here you can see like a completion bar. When it completes, it gets our Expert Engine, it gets into action. So the Expert Engine is basically like a heuristic rule engine that basically take the single vulnerability and answer a series of questions, such as, is the vulnerability true or not? Is it a false positive? And what we do, basically, we go out there and actively verify the vulnerability. So this is true whether we detect the vulnerability with our scanner, or we import Qualys result or Nessus result, whatnot. So it doesn't really matter. The other thing is that we have all sort of rules that we developed throughout the years in terms of like penetration testers experience that says sometimes not all the vulnerabilities are created equal. One vulnerability can be low in the eye of the scanner, but then in the eye of a penetration tester, it can be like a treasure trove. And I quote you an example. Let's say like backup files that sits out there in a publicly available web server. Those usually the vulnerability is rated low, but it depends what there is in those backup files. There is like username and password or encryption keys. Obviously, those are like treasure troves. So we built a rule around these cases and many more, and basically like we go find out the vulnerability that can lead us to a compromise. The other thing we do, we correlate a lot of data coming from the outside, such as patch availability, patch management in the organization, interacting with the various patch management for Microsoft as well as others, as well as we have threat intelligence feed that tell us what kind of vulnerability and CVE are actually used in exploit and malware out there. So out of all this correlation, we come up with top-notch vulnerability, and I'm going to show you later how we represent. We also support overscan. The asset group came out of a business requirement from our customer that basically says we would like to import our asset classification, such as IP addresses, fully qualified domain name, as well as the priority we assign to the asset. So we enable this just by have them import an Excel spreadsheet, like digesting their format. The other thing that we do once we prioritize and we digest those data, we enable the remediation. So very simple statistic: we solve tickets, resolve tickets, and average ticket age. Also, the most, like Lisa said, the most important things that happen in the organization is, and actually I was talking with a big banker today, said, well, I was able to get a shell in your box. This is a vulnerability that dates back like 2011. I'm wondering why you never patched this vulnerability. And the answer was, well, it got lost in an Excel spreadsheet, because they actually do this in huge bands with Excel spreadsheet. So really, our biggest competitor is not Qualys, is not Nessus, is not Rapid7, but it's really the Excel spreadsheet, because we want to do this, fight this battle. So what we do is, it's probably coming up, yeah. So what we do, when you click to a vulnerability, you have this popping out, and basically you can see like the body of the vulnerability, as well as you can assign, you can change the priority, you can change the status, you can change who's assigned to. But most importantly, you can assign the who's basically assigned to this ticket, and you can sort of manage people, and you can assign a sort of social collaboration to the circle, and it's an internal circle, and this can be interacting with LDAP or SAM, federated identity. So inside the organization, you can bring in the circle, whatever the people are in charge of fixing the vulnerability, or go after specific configuration. So the other thing I wanted to show you is a reporting. Obviously, the reporting is something that sorry, just a little slow there. So the reporting is something that we wanted to make it very, very easy, and especially for compliance and our friend auditors. I don't know if you have any auditors here, but they are the friend and the foe of the security professional. So basically, we want to enable executive summary. That's pretty easy. You select the scan date. you select the format and you can create the report, or you can drill it down more on customized reports such as the format, what you want to sort it by, the vulnerability, and so on. So it's basically the reporting function. We made it easy because we didn't want them to enable the remediation by printing the report, because that's what they do. They print the report and then they they use the highlighter to just say, okay, this vulnerability I go after first, and this is and they do the prioritization with printing the report. So that's what we wanted to, not enable. And going back to the workspace. Basically, this is like a kind of a summary of vulnerabilities, and total vulnerability, unresolved ticket, as well as total asset. Here there are like some easy action that you can enable, and here you can see basically most risky asset and most risky vulnerability, and you can basically sort it by business risk as well as technical risk. Business risk is the risk calculated including the impact of the asset. Let's say the asset is a domain controller, has more impact, everything out constantly. Same thing for external and web application. Web application has a very total different engine, but obviously has very unique vulnerabilities, such as SQL injection, process scripting, and so on. Security configuration is more like the administrative view, and is enabled by authenticator scan. Wireless is another interesting things, because instead of deploying a network wired appliance, we gave them like a small factor appliance with both the wireless and the wired interface, so they can basically schedule the site survey, so detecting all the wireless tests that are all around, also detecting what are the access point that there's access point, as well as what are the access point that are rogue, which is basically our definition of a rogue access point is an access point that you can detect over the wireless, but is also plugged into the internal network. So kind of act as a bridge. And with this, you can do basically like three things. You can do the wireless site survey. You can detect a rogue access point, and you can also do key cracking, both for the WP as well, which is pretty easy, and as well as WPA and WPA2 with pre-share keys. And we use the power of the cloud to actually accelerate this process. The exploitation is pretty interesting. So what it is basically, there are like a certain vulnerabilities that are detected in the wired network, let's say external or internal. Those, they have a certain CVE. We have a database of exploit in the back end. We match those CVE with the available exploit, and then we give a laundry list of a possible exploit. And then basically that's where the exploit engine comes in. There's a detection of the exploit that might work, and then those that actually work, we execute, and we actually execute and bring it to the exploitation. So we wanted to kind of maintain the same look and feel, as you can see. One of the cool things that you can do here is view the vulnerability. You can click here and manage the ticket. It goes directly to manage the ticket corresponding to the vulnerability. Or you can do the rescan. Not the entire scan, but the scan for just that vulnerability. If the vulnerability is not detected anymore, it automatically closes the ticket, so you don't have to do it. Just go back to the dashboard. Just to give you like basically a little overview of what's in there. Again, the various score, the total score, and each one of the modules there are like enabled. Let's say external, internal, and configuration. And obviously, if you got an F, you got a problem. Meaning there's a lot of critical vulnerability on a lot of critical impact assets. So you gotta basically go and click on each module and start like remediating the vulnerability. What we do in terms of a remediation, we do basically like two things. For web application, we can automatically generate the virtual patch to interact with most open source and commercial web application firewall. So you basically like generate the rule and cut and paste. And we didn't want to enable the direct kind of a point and click because that's a no-no in the organization. I mean, that's a recipe for disaster, kind of enabling that. The other thing we do is again, we kind of correlate it with the existing patch and the Microsoft Security Bulletin, as well as linking with WSUS and all the other patch management system, so they can basically know this is a critical vulnerability, there's already a patch in it, why didn't you patch, or if you patch, why the vulnerability is still there even if you patch. That means something went wrong, or the host didn't reboot or something like that. To kind of wrap up, here you can see, the various group. You can enable various group, as well as, you can see the various, scan, as well as risk by various asset grouping. Pretty straightforward, vulnerability status, the previous and more recent, and as well as the progress and how we're doing in terms of vulnerability count by severity. And most importantly, how am I doing with the ticket? Meaning, are the ticket aging beyond the 30 days, so I'm going to get hit on the next malware that incorporates that vulnerability? Yes and no. I mean, probably like if you stretch that aging beyond the 30 days, is going to happen. As well as the ticket trend. Usually what we see when they start using a Unified VRM, we see a huge spike, and then they're kind of like going up and down based on how good they remediate and how many new vulnerabilities are there. This will lead me to the end, and if you got some question, yep.
So you guys said you have a SaaS model, right?
Yep.
How do some of your enterprise customers feel about having their vulnerability data shipped to cloud?
Great question. We have a lot of enterprise customers. We primarily focus on mid-size enterprise. And initially, clearly for financial services, and then they have some thinking process, SaaS model hosted. But what we deliver very, very unique is each customer have their own private cloud. So there's no commingle of data. We're a security company. Security is really key for us. We make sure the customer can only have access and designated URL, and then no one else can access to the same.
Also, we have like a different model. I mean, we got customer that basically says, no, we don't want to be in the cloud, and we say that's fine. We can do like on-premise, meaning we deliver an appliance and they have this on-premise in their enterprise. I mean, we're pretty flexible. Yep.
Who hosts it?
We have a balance of a variety of providers. As you know, AWS, Rackspace, a number of them. Clearly there's an evaluation process. And also you can find us on the marketplace, AWS. Yep.
You guys have an API that third parties can integrate with?
Yes. So it's an API. It's an API in, and it's an API out. API in, you can basically import the enterprise asset and kind of push all your asset data with all your enterprise risk impact in the system. In the API out, you can extract the vulnerability and vulnerability details, vulnerability correlation, and ticket information. We interact with Jara and Remedy for now.
Right?